Welcome, members of the Springfield Budget Committee and City Council. My name is Matt Stouter, and I am the Springfield Environmental Services Director. I also serve as the Metropolitan Wastewater Management Commission's Executive Officer. And it's my pleasure to be here before you virtually to present the Environmental Services Program budget for fiscal year 23. Let me share my screen here. We'll get started. Okay. As you can see, I have a few topics to address with you today. I'm going to start out by giving you an overview of environmental services and what we do. Dive into the stormwater program a little bit. Talk about the regional wastewater program and MWMC, and then I'll wrap up with our MWMC capital program. I wanted to acknowledge before I get into the numbers and the pictures here, Catherine Bishop and Lula Laco in my group for the work that they have done putting together this budget this year, as well as all ESD staff that had a hand in helping me with this. There will be opportunities, of course, at the budget committee meetings to ask any questions that you might have of me at that time. Okay. This slide shows Environmental Services Division. We have 24 staff. We're housed in the Department of Development and Public Works. And we really have kind of 4 to 5 main program areas, as you can see here. Water Resources is our stormwater group that oversees issues related to our stormwater permit that the city holds. It does facility inspections and that sort of thing. We have a budget, finance, and administrative group. And then we have a communications team that performs public affairs and communications for not only DPW, but also for the MWMC. And then we have an industrial pre-treatment group that oversees permitting associated with industry in the city. And then we have a capital project planning and policy group that really oversees planning and policy projects and capital projects for the Metropolitan Wastewater Management Commission. So here's a high-level budget overview table prepared for you, showing a budget overview by different services in ESD. You'll note that the Regional Wastewater Administration, which is the MWMC component that Springfield is responsible for, is by far the largest component of our budget. The lower table there shows a further breakdown of our budget. A few things to note here: personal services have went up a little bit. That's due to PERS obligations and regular wages as determined through collective bargaining agreements with the city. Our M&S, materials and services, have went up slightly, and much more so on the regional side, which I'll talk about in a little bit, due to a number of factors, including the new stormwater permit that we accepted this last year from DEQ. And then there's a few other things here that have went up that are really kind of housed in our budget, but outside of our control. Things like our indirect cost and internal charges, and then the utility billing services here, which is the amount of money we pay to the Springfield Utility Board for the services they provide with respect to billing. This slide shows a few of our stormwater program goals, which are guided by the city's National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permit. That permit is issued to us by the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality under federal oversight from the Environmental Protection Agency. And we do have 7 of these key goals. Only a few of them are not all listed here, but these are what drive our stormwater program. Wanted to talk briefly about some accomplishments in the stormwater program this past year. Public education and outreach is a big one for us. It really helps us interact with our community and help them understand the importance of clean water to Springfield. So first up is our Canines for Clean Water calendar contest. This is probably one of our most successful programs that's been running for a number of years. Very popular. We get hundreds of community members that engage in this contest, submit photos of their dog, and pledge to pick up after their dog to keep bacteria out of our waterways. And in exchange for doing that, they are entered into a contest to be featured in our calendar. And 12 of the lucky winners end up in those calendars that are featured every year. I think we distribute about 4,000 calendars out to local businesses and residents. And you can see a picture of the front and back page of the calendar shown here. We also have a post-construction site runoff program that we work with. Mainly this is water quality facility inspections. This past year, we inspected over 500 different swales, ponds, and other water quality features to make sure that the water leaving those facilities is being treated as it's intended to be treated. And we also worked with those property owners to maintain compliance and make sure that the systems are functioning properly. And lastly here, the illicit discharge of contaminants. We responded to quite a large number of calls this year, as we do every year, where residents can call in and voice concerns if they see things that shouldn't be happening out in our system, like, for example, paint being dumped down the drain or other sources of pollution that are of concern. Moving forward, looking at the initiatives for the upcoming year, implementation of our MS4, our stormwater permit, is really going to be key. As I mentioned, we accepted that permit here last year, and it contains a number of requirements that we're going to be needing to meet. Talk a little bit more about that in the upcoming slide. Continue with our public education and outreach programs, including our upstream art campaign, which educates citizens and residents in town about the importance of stormwater runoff and where it goes. You can see an artist here who was featured last year painting at one of our curb inlets near downtown. And then we're also going to need to continue to implement pollution reduction strategies that are part of our total maximum daily load plan that's also been issued to us with oversight from the Department of Environmental Quality. Looking ahead for future year considerations, implementation of that permit is going to be the primary driver for us. All the new requirements and existing requirements that are contained within that permit will need to be implemented by February of 2024. That's going to result in some additional resource need across the entire Department of Development and Public Works. And we're positioning ourselves to address that. And then beyond that, these permits are issued on a 5-year permit cycle. And so we're expecting to get another quote unquote new permit in 2024 that's going to contain additional requirements that we'll need to be preparing to meet. Now I will transition into discussing the Metropolitan Wastewater Management Commission and the Regional Wastewater Program, wearing my hat as the executive officer for the MWMC. So the MWMC really is built on partnerships. It's a partnership between the cities of Springfield and Eugene, as well as Lane County. And we have a service area that is shown here that incorporates the urban growth boundaries of both cities and serves about 250,000 community members. We have a 7-member commission made up of elected officials and appointed representatives, 1 city councilor from Eugene and Springfield, and a board of county commissioner from Lane County, and 4 citizen reps. Springfield City Councilor Joe Pictionary is the Springfield representative, and he was elected to a 1-year term to serve as president of the MWMC this year that we're currently in. Springfield is responsible for the administrative functions of the MWMC, and that includes things like our annual budget preparation, implementation of our wastewater discharge permit, our regional capital construction and improvement plan, public education and outreach, and the executive officer and general manager functions, among other things. And Eugene is responsible for the operations and maintenance of all of our regional wastewater facilities. We provide service to both domestic and industrial users, and also as well as mobile waste haulers from outside the urban growth boundaries. So we get septic waste and other waste hauled into our facility from all throughout greater Lane County. In addition to the Springfield staff that work on behalf of MWMC, the city of Eugene has about 77 staff that work on behalf of MWMC as well. This slide depicts our treatment facility. out on River Avenue, the commission is responsible for approximately $450 million worth of assets. And the largest complex of our assets are located at the treatment plant, which is at 410 River Avenue in Eugene. This facility operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and average daily flows in the summertime, average dry weather flows to the wastewater plant are around 25 million to 30 million gallons a day. We do have the capability to treat wet weather flows in the wet season that are up to 277 million gallons per day. I think the highest we've ever treated is around 230. We own and operate a biosolids management facility and poplar farm out on Aubrey Lane near Highway 99. The picture here shows there's Highway 99. You can see the poplar trees. This is about 600 acres. The biosolids the solids that we have at the plant are sent out via pipeline to the biosolids facility. It's 6 miles and stored in large lagoons, and then they're harvested on a yearly basis from one lagoon, so every 3 to 4 years. And then they are dried, they're used as fertilizer on our poplar trees, and also with cooperative agreements with area ryegrass farmers. We maintain 3 management units of poplar, total acreage in poplar of about 400 acres, and we have about 88,000 trees on site at any given time. And those trees are harvested on 12-year rotations before being replanted, and the end products are turned into logs that are used for wood chips, plywood veneer, ceiling grills, or other uses here locally. Just to inform the budget committee here, our budget schedule, we need to go out, the MWMC needs to go out and have our budget approved or ratified by the Springfield City Council, Eugene City Council, and the Lane County Board of Commissioners before coming back to the MWMC for final adoption. That schedule is shown here. This slide shows a combined summary of the regional wastewater operating budget. You'll note it's about $22 million. There is an 8% budget change proposed this year that the commission has approved. Personnel costs, including PERS and other factors, are 4.2%. Materials and services have went up substantially this year, and we've seen that the last couple of years. I just wanted to put a note in here, and I mentioned this to our commission. We're living in a time right now that's fairly uncertain. Inflation levels are as high as they've been in the last 40 years, but even in light of that, I think our commission has done an excellent job of positioning us to be able to absorb these impacts without having to pass these increases on to our ratepayers, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. This is our proposed rate change for this year. It's at 3.5%. It's in line with what we estimated we would need last year, much less than inflation, but it's still an adjustment upwards. This slide shows our rate history of the past 5 years. We did have no rate change 2 years ago during the start of the pandemic. And these numbers here represent an average of 5,000 gallons of wastewater treated. The average Springfield resident is going to pay less than what you're seeing here because the average usage in Springfield is approximately 4,300 gallons. And in Eugene, it's even less because the usage is even less. This slide is a fee comparison that we show our commission each year that I think is worthy of discussing here, just showing how we're doing compared to other communities of like size with respect to our wastewater fees. The blue component is the MWMC regional wastewater charge, and the green charge is the local charge. And you'll note that there's a difference between Eugene and Springfield, and that difference is primarily driven by the fact that Springfield in the past, being a smaller community, has had to sell bonds and pay for those bonds, that debt service they've had to pay for due to environmental regulations and mandates, whereas Eugene, being a larger community, has been able to spread that out over a larger rate base. It hasn't had to do that to the same level as Springfield. But overall, Springfield is below the average and below the median for both rates combined, with Springfield and MWMC is below the average. Some accomplishments for this year. We're very excited. In fact, we just had our Renewable Natural Gas ribbon cutting ceremony today. I was out there just a few hours ago, but we did finish completion of construction of our renewable natural gas project, and it's shown here. I'll talk more about that here in a couple of slides. We produced a MWMC partnership video that featured local and national leaders, as well as industry and business owners, talking about the importance of partnerships and clean water. And then we won 3 national awards that I'm very proud of this year from the National Association of Clean Water Agencies. And here's a couple of them here with our communications staff. We won 1 for the partnership video I just mentioned. We won 1 for Springfield's role, and specifically with operations with respect to capacity management, operation, and maintenance of our wastewater system here locally. We produced a video on that, and that won an award in the e-media category. And then we had an individual environment award winner, Todd Miller, in environmental services. And those were national awards that were competed for across the nation. There was hundreds of entries, and very proud of staff for the videos that were produced and for putting that together. A few initiatives looking forward for MWMC. We expect to have our own permit renewal. It's occurring right now. We expect to have that permit by the start of fiscal year 23. We actually expect the applicant review draft, which is the draft we have, that we get to take a look at what our requirements are going to be at the end of this week. So by the time the budget committee reviews this, it will be out, and then we'll be into public comment, and then final permit issuance by the summer. That's going to be a major initiative and driver for us. That's going to result in a number of things, including updating our pretreatment ordinance here in Springfield and in the municipal code. That's going to be based off the MWMC's model ordinance. It will be the same ordinance that's in the City of Eugene's code, and it will be based off the National Environmental Protection Agency ordinance. We're also going to continue with Clean Water University, which is a major educational program that we have at MWMC and Springfield, educating 5th graders from across Springfield and Eugene on the importance of clean water. We invite them out to the treatment plant. They take a tour. They go through a variety of activity booths, and then they get a goodie bag and learn about the importance of clean water. I think we have usually around 750-ish 5th grade students attending that event. Future year considerations. Looking forward, we're going to need to implement that permit that I was just talking about. That's going to result in a lot of work for us, including development of a 20-year facilities plan that will guide us into the future, and also will require us to update our systems development charge methodology for the regional wastewater system. We will need to update our capital improvement plan based on that work. And then we're going to look at continuing to implement implementation of our resiliency plan, which is actually we call it our disaster mitigation and recovery plan, which is our planning document that is helping us to harden our infrastructure at the plant in plan for a Cascadia resilience, Cascadia subduction zone quake, excuse me. Just note, this is Todd Miller with that individual award that he won down in Phoenix, Arizona. Okay, wrapping it up with the capital budget. This is our capital plan. You'll see that fairly large $35 million capital plan for this year and $105 million capital plan over the next 5 years. Providing clean water for the community and cleaning wastewater is expensive. But there's some really good projects going on that I'm very excited about. We also have a significant amount of money, about $3 million, that's going to be going towards our equipment replacement. Our plant is 40 years old, and some of the equipment there is starting to age out and needing to be replaced. So we're going to be looking at redoing and replacing our distributed control system, which is our electrical system, our electrical control system for the entire plant, as well as some various large pieces of equipment that are going to be replaced, and then various building roofs that we're also going to be replacing. Finish up here with a couple of projects that I'm excited to talk about. So as I mentioned, we recently completed our renewable natural gas facilities upgrade project shown here. In partnership with Northwest Natural, we recently completed this. and we're going to be able to beneficially reuse 100% of the biogas generated on site from our anaerobic digestion process, and eliminate flaring of the gas that we've had at the plant. I'm very excited for this. It's going to produce a significant source of revenue for us. That's going to help us move into the future, and it's going to, it's just going to, I think it's just a wonderful project. We did, in completing this project and in starting to inject gas a couple of months ago, we did become the first public agency in Oregon to do so, beating out Portland by a little bit. And so that's something I think we should be proud of as well. A few carryover projects, large projects that are going to be continuing, and these are just a couple, there's many, but we are looking to make improvements on our aeration basins and our secondary treatment process at the plant. There's going to be 2 phases to this work, and the first is going to focus on energy and efficiency improvements to our blowers and diffuser that provide all the air needed for this project, or for these basins, excuse me. And then the second one is an upgrade to our administration and operations building. These buildings are over 40 years old, and they are what house our operators and our console unit and other staff at the plant. And the improvements associated with these were identified as our highest priority in our disaster mitigation recovery plan in planning for that resiliency effort. With that, I think I'm going to conclude my remarks for the committee. There's a lot going on with both ESD and MWMC, and of course, as mentioned, I'll be available for any questions you might have during the course of the budget committee meetings. So thank you very much.